Welcome to the Stable Workplace Podcast. My name is Shane Jacob, your host, and I thank you for taking your time to be here with me today, where we work on creating workplaces for people to excel. From the depths of hell that way I created, from the depths of hell in a jail cell, depths of hell that I created, to the back of a horse to the front of the stage. My name's Shane Jacob, and I'm coming to you with my 30 years experience in leading teams, training horses, and being locked up in the Hooskow, Crowbar Motel. You know what kind of bird doesn't fly, right? Just asking. A jailbird. Today we're talking about reducing power gradients, which kind of sounds complicated to me, but I'm here to make it simple, make some sense of all this. So, as a leader, I think all of us are looking at our people and just saying, I want you to do more. I need more. I need more responsibility. I need you to be better at what you're doing. How can we improve the way that you perform here? And it can be pretty frustrating trying to get all that done when you see people that you believe that they have the complete capacity, but yet they're not providing the results that you're hoping that they will. Trying to get people to do what you want them to, trying to control people or horses. Pretty tough uphill battle you got going on though. You see people that aren't communicating well. You see, sometimes as leaders we feel like we can see the problem, but we can't fix it. That's where sometimes the frustration could come from. You see people that don't follow the system. They're just not like applying themselves. And you wonder to yourself, it's like, why aren't you doing it? What incentive do I need to provide you to get people to improve their performance? And the reality is, people are complicated. You and I are pretty complicated individuals, along with every other human being. Now, what we do know from some of Google's research is that psychological safety is a big thing, and it's also a big word, or set of words. And I've talked about psychological safety, and my definition, what it means according to me, is that people trust that they're safe from value judgment from the group that they're in. The group meaning their coworkers and their leaders, their team, their company, whatever the group is, that the people inside of it feel they trust that they're safe from value judgment. Trust that they're safe from value judgment. What does that mean? Value judgment meaning that because I do or don't do my work well, however I do my work is how you value me. Okay. So in other words, if I don't perform well, I'm not a very good person. So that's a value judgment. A value judgment is when we value people's worth, the kind of person they are, how important they are, how good they are. We judge people. We don't usually do this on purpose. It's more of something that just automatically happens because that's the way that we're trained to believe that we should value people based on what they do, their behavior. So if I make a really bad decision, that means I'm a bad person. If I do something wrong, then I'm a bad person, right? And that's how we kind of roll. And that is what people are afraid of. They're afraid of being judged. That they're afraid to be judged, labeled, the kind of person that they are, or devalued because of even if they make a mistake or if they screw up at work, because there's so much at risk. I mean, seriously, it's your job, it's your money. You know what I'm saying? People, it's very important to people. They put a lot of weight on it. And so what they believe other people think about them, or how they judge or how they see them, becomes a very important thing. Now, if I come into this group as the new guy, the new employee, And I feel like, hey, no matter what I do here, you guys don't think I suck as a human being, then I have a chance to be a superstar. That's called part of psychological safety. It means that the trust is high, defensiveness is low, and I can engage more because I'm not afraid to keep my I'm not afraid. I have less fear wrapped up in what I'm doing, so therefore I can contribute more in so many ways. That's psychological safety. I feel safe from value judgment from the people I'm working with. So how the hell do you get that? I mean, that sounds real nice, Shane, but how are you going to get that done? Okay. Um, so one of the things that's come up, one of the ways, it's like, well, how do you accomplish this? And how are you going to get people to believe that they're safe from value judgment? How in the hell are you going to go about people convincing people that we're all equal here, that you're no better than them? Okay, how are you going to show them that every day so that they believe it, so that they can come to work and kick ass for you? Okay, because that's what they'll do if they believe that everybody in this group is seen as the same and we're all equal. Okay, and that none of us are better than anybody else, even though we have different titles, make different amount of money. We're not all the same, but we're the same when it comes to value. We're not all equal in our talents, and we're not all equal in our abilities or our positions uh, or our salaries. We're not equal in so many things, but we are equal in our value before God and to each other in this group. So that, like, again, that sounds like idealistic. Well, how in the hell are you going to convince somebody that you don't think that you're better than they are if you're the leader? Okay, because that's the key. Um, so one of the things that has been suggested in people who study psychological safety, because it makes the most difference of anything when it comes to high performance. So the key is how do you get people to do more of what you want them to do? How do you get them to be better? How do you get them to perform more and be all they can be when it comes to people on your team? As the leader, what incentive are you going to how are you going to convince people of what you see, that they have so much more potential and it'll be better if they use some of that potential? How are you going to make all that happen? Well, the research shows that psychological safety, if you can provide the environment, now you can't force people to think or feel a certain way, but if you give people the chance, if you lay the foundation so that they can at least have a chance to feel, to have trust go up, to feel trust, to feel psychologically safe from value judgment, to feel like they fit in, to feel like there's less fear wrapped up in this whole work thing so that they can be better. How do you go about doing that? So one of the things that's been suggested in helping to create psychological safety is reducing power gradients. Wonderful. What the hell is that? Power gradients, or leveling power gradients. So basically what that means is trying to convince the guy who just started yesterday, who's down there sweeping the warehouse, that he has as much power as the CEO. Okay. That's what that means. Trying to get everybody to think that nobody has more powerful than the power gradient is, not like you come in here and there's a hierarchy and the king or the CEO's up there and the peasants and all of us down here are sweeping the floor and plowing the fields. The idea is that you reduce that, or you level the power gradients and try to get people to think that everybody has the same amount of power. Okay. So some of the things that have been suggested in leveling or reducing power gradients, because are this. So here, how do you do that? Here's how some ideas that have been suggested to reduce power gradients. Number one is you let the new people, the less experienced people, the people in lower positions, starter positions, make more decisions. You call people by their name instead of their title. You let people run meetings or chair a meeting, even if they're not in charge. Okay. And you listen to people. You create discussions and forums where you take in information. These are ideas to help reduce or level a power gradient so you don't think when you come into the group or you're in the group and you're in the group working, you don't feel as so much less than everybody else. Now, here's what I think, okay? There's some good ideas in this, okay? Because we should always listen to the people that are in the front lines. Of course, we should always listen to our people, and we should do like Joe Caruso said, and that is to honor people's perspective, which means that I listen and I give it weight. I don't need to agree with it. I don't need to take the recommendation. I don't need to have it be right. You don't have to be right. I just listen and I take it into consideration. That's what Joe Caruso means by honoring people's perspective. Okay. They have thoughts and they're important and their input is important, whether we accept it as our new policy or if we implement their idea or not. We still want to hear and value what they have to say. We want to value what they have to say just because it's what they have to say. Okay. So listening to people is a good idea. Discussions and I don't. Here's one thing I don't agree with necessarily, and that is putting people in charge of meetings. To me, that's ridiculous. Okay, that you're going to put somebody be a chair of a meeting so that they'll feel like they're important and they're a decision maker when they're not. To me, that sounds damn ridiculous. Okay, I don't know. That's what I think. And if you're the person that's getting, well, you can run the meeting, but remember, you still can't do any decisions, and we're not paying you anymore. So I don't know. Maybe that helps. I don't think so. Uh, Calling people by names, whatever, I guess so. Nothing wrong with that, rather than using titles. So some of these things are. I'm saying that these are good ideas, but I think that reducing power gradients to make is missing the point. Because here's the thing: somebody has to be in charge. Okay, there's got to be a leader. That means somebody who has the authority and the responsibility to make the decisions. Okay, they're responsible for the results. They have the authority to make their decisions, and that is called the leader. And somebody's the leader. And we're not going to take their power away and try to give you more so everybody feel somebody still is in charge around here. Okay, it's not like a free for all and everybody's totally equal. That's not the way it works. So some of these implementation ideas of reducing power gradients, I'm saying that I believe that they're good ideas, but I think that reducing power gradients as a strategy to help create psychological safety is damn ridiculous, because that shouldn't be the goal to make everybody of equal power. The goal should be to have everybody realize and trust that we're of equal value, not of equal authority, not of equal responsibility, and not of equal power when it comes to decision making and such stuff like that in this company, because we're not all going to be making the same decisions. Okay. We're not all going to, it's not a total democracy and we're going to put everything up for vote. Somebody is going to, has for a reason, hopefully, for a good reason, is the one that has the responsibility and the authority to make the decisions, and we don't want to change that. I just think it's a little bit misguided. I think what we really want people to know, I think what we really, I think reducing power gradients is nonsense, okay? And I think what we really, really want people to know is that, hey, I'm just exactly like you in that I'm going to make some bad decisions. I do it all the time, same as you. I do some amazing things and I do some things that I'm really ashamed of, and that sometimes I make bad decisions. Yeah, I make mistakes, but sometimes I flat do things that are just bad decisions. They're just wrong. Same as you. And I just want you to know that on top of that, I value you 100%. I don't think I'm 1 ounce better than you at all. I think that we're totally equal, and that what we want to reduce is the value judgments that people place on themselves. And so, yeah, we want to say that, but we also want to behave that way. So some of the ways that we can behave that way to help people buy in or believe or have faith in and trust, because you can't just say it like we talked about in another podcast. You have to live it. So how do you live in order to believe, to have people believe that we're of equal value around here? We're not of equal power, but we're of equal value. And that's the key. When people believe that it's an equal value deal and we're only going to be judging the work and you're not going to be valuing me plus or minus on what I do, so that now I know if I make a bad decision, I'm still safe in the group. Okay. If I give you a recommendation and you hate it, you don't hate me and think I'm an idiot. Okay. Because you always respect me. So we hold people in high regard. How do we do that? We show we're kind, we're respectful. We take honoring people's perspective as part of this. We take their contribution, whether we accept it or agree with it or not, we take their perspective into consideration. Okay. These are a couple of the ways that we show people. We don't just say it, but we show people that we value them the same as ourselves. And because that, again, what we want to equalize is value, not authority. We want to equalize people's humanity, not their job title, not how much money they make, not their decision making value, not their decision making authority. We're not equalizing that. We are equalizing our value before God and before each other. You don't have to say before God if that's not good to say at work for you. But we acknowledge that we're all equal here when it comes to worth and value and of importance as human beings. Okay. So we want to treat people like human beings. We're kind and respectful at all times. We listen, we honor their respect. And, we want people to know that we're not better than them. Okay. We have to really operate that way, because we can say it, but they won't believe it. They won't buy into it. They won't trust. They'll still not feel, they still won't trust that they're safe from judgment until we show a pattern of how we behave. Okay. And I'm giving you the ideas. Now, leveling power gradients, or I think, like, for example, having them chair a meeting is just hocus pocus nonsense. To say, oh, if you chair this meeting, that shows that you have as much power as I do. So I hope you feel better about working here now. And you know that I think you're amazing and your value is 100% because I let you chair a meeting. I think that's ridiculous. I think whoever should chair the meeting should whoever chair the meeting. I'm not opposed to it, but using that as a strategy for people to believe that they are you're as a reducing or leveling a power gradient, I think is ridiculous. That's my personal thought on this. I think it's theatrical nonsense is what I think. Putting somebody in charge of a meeting that they're not in charge of. Somebody in that meeting is still the decision maker, okay? And that somebody still in this company has to be the one to make the decisions. And that's the responsible person, not whoever you said can chair the meeting that day. That's my thoughts on this, okay? What we want people to know is that at this company that we judge the work, when we only judge the work, and we always protect the person. We always regard, everybody here is 100% valuable. We always regard and protect the person's value, no matter what they do or don't do, which means how we implement this is when the bad decisions come and how we handle all those things that we deal with when we're just shaking our heads, we're mad, we're upset at how everything's going and what they did. We have to separate in our minds what the work is with that person and always protect the person and only judge the work. Okay. This is how you actually get psychological safety. You want to talk about a power gradient? Let me just tell you, earlier in this, when I was kind of starting the beginning introduction to this podcast, I talked about the Who Scout, which is slang, or I don't know what it is. It's another word for the jail or for prison or behind bars, crowbar motel, being locked up. And having been there too many times, I'm not proud to say this, but I've been in 4 county jails and 2 separate prisons. All right. So I've been behind bars a little in my life. And I don't say that as a badge of honor. I assure you of that. Well, I say that because the true power gradients are inside those kinds of establishments. And I think it's intentional to have a power gradient to where we're the powerful people, the guards and the people that run the show, and all the rest of you inmates, you're way down below us and you're going to stay down there. Now, that is a power gradient, okay? An extreme, probably, case of power gradient that is, they don't want to level it, okay? At all, in my experience, that I've ever seen or heard of. Now, that's a power gradient. And even there, okay, even there, which I'm saying everywhere, so including there, if you have the power grade, somebody has to be in charge, okay? Somebody has to be in charge of how we run this establishment, even if it's a prison. But that doesn't mean that we can't treat inmates as human beings with respect, with human dignity. The same, I mean, we can practice that. It doesn't matter what organization we're talking about. And I just went from your company or your family to a jailhouse or to a prison, okay, situation. Same thing applies all the way through. And how we increase the trust is, yes, we need to say it. We need to have a strategy. We need to have a way that we present to our group, to our company, to our team, to our department of how we roll around here. This is what our culture is about. We need to state it. But more importantly, we need to follow up with how we act and how we actually treat people. Okay. And I'll tell you, I look at this is just contrary to our thinking. So if this seems like, what the hell are you talking about, Shane? That would be normal thinking, because you and I have been taught that what we do determines our value. We've been taught that for our entire lives, and I've been around a while. All right. And so the more that we hear it and repeat it, the more we believe it, the more we accept it, and it just comes like factual, okay? That certain people are worth more or they're better than others, okay, in some ways. And we don't like do this all on purpose. It's not always a conscious, intentional, purposeful thoughts. It's just the way that we automatically roll. It just happens. We're just around making judgments all the time based using people's behavior. We judge the kind of their value, okay, their worth as a human being. We judge the person based on their behavior, and that is normal. And I myself, I know, I've known that I've had a belief that what we do doesn't affect our value as a human being for a while now, for a few years. Yet at the same time, even though have worked on really strengthening and really living and believing that belief, I still, when I get around people with that are like uber wealthy or in big, high, important positions with famous people or um, officials of this and that or the other or whatever, I I automatically feel less than. Okay. And so I have to manage my mind around that. I have to remind myself and I have to say, that what they have compared to what I am is we're still the same value. We're still the same. Okay. I have to put intention in it because it's not automatic for me. So the point here is that what I'm talking about takes work, takes effort, it takes intentionality. It takes that purposeful thought to say, hey, here's the bottom line for you, okay? If you want to get better results from your people, if you want to have less frustration, and not all your frustration is going to disappear all of a sudden, okay? But if you want less frustration, and proven, this is not just my idea, backed by research, that you will have the best performance. The number one factor is psychological safety, according to Project Aristotle that Google did in whatever 2016 or something like that. Okay, that's going to be the number one thing that's going to affect the people, how the people perform for you. Okay, the number one thing. So how are you going to go about it? I would suggest not focusing on reducing or leveling power gradients and trying to convince everybody that they have the same amount of power around here. I would suggest that you change that a little bit to say, I'm going to try to get people to trust, to believe that I am the same as them when it comes to value. I'm the owner of the company. I'm the boss. I make the decisions. But yet at the same time, sometimes I make bad decisions, just like you. Sometimes I do things amazing and sometimes I do things that are just wrong, just a bad decision, just like you. Sometimes you will too. I want to normalize bad decisions, okay? And because bad decisions are going to happen. I'm not saying to go for it. That's the target goal. I'm just saying it's going to happen. So you might as well get ready for it and know that I accept that as part of this company. Okay. I also accept the idea that when we recognize that we do everything we can to not have the same thing happen again, because that's not what we're going for. What I'm talking about is when it does happen, what do we do with it? Okay. We want to normalize the idea that we're going to constantly be wanting to improve and do more. And sometimes for employees and for people on a team in a company, that can feel like that no matter what they do is never good enough. So I want to have an open idea that says that we're going to constantly be improving and that we're going to celebrate as much as we can and compliment and pat each other on the back as we go by and make progress and celebrate our goals and our momentum. But it's never going to be done. It's not going to be mission accomplished. We're going to always be wanting to improve on everything that we're doing. So that needs to be an upfront expectation. Okay. This the same way that things are gonna go bad. They're just gonna go bad some days. You're gonna make bad decisions, and that's gonna be the way it's gonna be. And we're not gonna judge you for it. We're gonna judge the work. Okay. We're going to judge the work because that's why we're here. And if you do make bad decisions all the time, that doesn't mean that it's okay. That means you're gonna have to go if you keep doing that. I'm just saying that the best way to make less bad decisions and the best way to improve the work is part of this is setting the expectation that I'm the same as you and you're going to make mistakes. And I know that we know that as the leaders in this, and that's going to be okay. Okay. Because what I want you to know as the people that I lead is that I not only tell you that I'm not any better than you by one whit, okay? But I act that way. I act that way. And that includes when I'm frustrated, I always have respect and regard for everyone. We treat everybody well, regardless of their position or their title. And you know what, my friends? You know where all this begins? Here's where it's going to happen, because nothing's going to happen unless it starts right here inside of you. Inside of you. That's where it begins, because the way you relate with yourself is the way that you relate with the world. And if you don't believe that you're 100% valuable, 100% worthy, that uh, that what you do doesn't affect your worth, then you're not going to get people to buy in very easily to the idea that what they do doesn't affect their worth. So it begins with us as leaders. It begins for us saying to ourselves and having the strength, the power. And don't talk about power, the strength and power that comes from humility. And humility is being to openly look at ourselves and just say, hey, we're imperfect and that's okay, because we're working on doing better and making better decisions all the time as we move along. And it's okay that we're not perfect and that we not just make mistakes, but do things wrong sometimes. It has to begin here. We have to separate our own behavior from our value, and we have to separate them. And when we look at ourselves and say, oh, I can't believe I did this, I'm such a, no, you're not an idiot. You just made a bad decision. That's called being a human being. You're perfect. Your value's perfect. Okay. Your behavior's not perfect. Of course it's not. You're a human. And that's how it rolls. Okay. We need to look at ourselves and fully accept ourselves, to work towards fully accepting and forgiving ourselves, regardless of what we do or don't do. Okay. And then Um, all this leadership business, all the things that we hear and teach and preach, you know what it comes down to? I'll tell you what it comes down to. It comes down to love your neighbor. That's what it comes down to. And that really, all these big words and this and that, really what it comes down to is treating other people the way that you want to be treated. It comes down to the golden rule at the very really core of it. Okay. That's the key. Most importantly for today, I want to leave you with this message, and that is that I hope you that can fully come to know and believe with all your heart and soul that no matter what you do or don't do, or what's been done to you, nothing can change your perfect worth, your value. Your value is non negotiable. Stay with me.